Marcus Chun pushed his cleaning cart down the empty hallway of the Meridian Research Institute at 11:47 p.m. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows that danced across the polished floor. His back ached from the day's work, but he couldn't complain. This job paid well enough to keep his 8-year-old daughter Emma fed and housed, even if it meant working nights while she slept. The research facility was supposed to be cutting edge, working on projects that normal people like Marcus would never understand. Scientists with fancy degrees studied things that sounded like gibberish to him. All he knew was that they made messes, and he cleaned them up. It was honest work, and that mattered more than prestige. Marcus had been cleaning the third floor for 6 months now. The scientists always left by 9 p.m., and security made their rounds every 2 hours. Between those rounds, the building belonged to Marcus and the other night janitors. Tonight felt different, though. The air seemed heavier somehow, like the moments before a thunderstorm. He stopped at room 317, Dr. Sarah Mitchell's lab. She was one of the few scientists who actually acknowledged his existence, sometimes even saying good morning when their schedules overlapped. Her lab studied something called quantum field resonance, whatever that meant. Marcus had stopped trying to understand the work after reading a paper sheet left on her desk about dimensional membrane theory. The keycard beeped as Marcus swiped it. The heavy door clicked open, revealing the familiar chaos of Dr. Mitchell's workspace. Computer screens glowed in the darkness, displaying graphs and numbers that meant nothing to him. In the center of the room stood a large metal ring, about 8 feet tall, connected to massive cables and blinking control panels. Dr. Mitchell called it the resonance gate, and she'd been working on it for months. Marcus had cleaned around the device dozens of times. It never did anything except hum quietly and display scrolling data on nearby monitors. Tonight, however, something was different. The humming was louder, deeper, and the screen showed red warning messages instead of the usual blue data streams. He pulled out his phone to call security, then hesitated. What would he tell them? That the science machine was humming differently? They'd think he was crazy. Besides, maybe this was normal. Scientists ran experiments at all hours. For all he knew, Dr. Mitchell had programmed this to happen. Marcus decided to clean quickly and get out. He started with the trash bins, moving efficiently through his routine. As he worked, the humming grew louder. The screens began flashing more urgently, and he could feel a strange tingling in the air, like static electricity before lightning strikes. Then, the metal ring began to glow. Marcus froze, mop in hand, staring at the device. A soft blue light emanated from within the ring, growing brighter with each passing second. The air inside the ring shimmered like heat waves rising from summer pavement. The humming became a low roar that he could feel in his chest. He should run. Every instinct told him to drop the mop and get out of the room immediately. But curiosity held him in place. In 8 years of single parenthood, working double shifts, and scraping by, Marcus had forgotten what wonder felt like. This was wonder, terrifying and beautiful. The shimmer inside the ring suddenly solidified into something impossible. Through the metal circle, Marcus could see another place entirely. Rolling hills covered in purple grass stretched beneath twin suns hanging in an alien sky. The air itself seemed to sparkle with golden particles that drifted like snow. This isn't possible, Marcus whispered to himself. As if responding to his voice, something moved in the alien landscape. A figure approached the ring from the other side, walking with purpose across the purple terrain. As it drew closer, Marcus could make out details that made his mind reel. The being was humanoid, but clearly not human. 7 feet tall and slender, with skin that had a subtle silver sheen like polished metal. Its face was angular, with large eyes that seemed to shift color from blue to green to gold. It wore clothing that appeared to be made of the same material as its skin, flowing and seamless. The alien stopped just on the other side of the portal and stared directly at Marcus. For a moment, neither moved. Then, the being raised one hand in what could only be interpreted as a greeting. Marcus's practical mind kicked in. This was way above his pay grade. He needed to call someone, get help, report this to who? The government? The military? Dr. Mitchell? But, before he could move, alarms began blaring throughout the building. Red lights flashed in the corridors, and an automated voice announced, "Security breach detected." Unauthorized energy signature in Laboratory 317. All personnel evacuate immediately. The portal flickered, the image of the alien world wavering like a mirage. The being on the other side seemed agitated, pressing its hands against what must have been a barrier between the worlds. Its mouth moved urgently, but Marcus couldn't hear any words over the alarms. Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. Security was coming, probably with guns drawn. Marcus looked at the alien, who was now gesturing frantically, pointing at something behind Marcus. He turned to see armed guards rounding the corner, moving fast toward the lab. In that split second, Marcus made a decision that would change everything. Instead of stepping aside to let security handle the situation, he moved closer to the portal. The alien being was trying to communicate something important. The desperation in its alien features was unmistakable. Marcus pointed at himself, then at the being, making a questioning gesture. The alien nodded vigorously, then pointed behind Marcus again, this time making slashing motions across its throat. The message was clear: danger was coming. The security team burst into the lab just as the portal began to collapse. The alien being made one final gesture, pressing something against the barrier between worlds. A small object materialized on Marcus's side of the portal, falling to the floor with a metallic clink. "Step away from the device," the lead security guard shouted, raising his weapon. Marcus quickly kicked the small object under a nearby workbench and raised his hands. "I was just cleaning," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. The machine started doing this on its own. The portal winked out of existence with a sound like breaking glass. The metal ring went dark and silent. The sudden absence of the humming left Marcus's ears ringing. "What did you see?" demanded the guard. A man named Peterson, whom Marcus recognized from their brief interactions during shift changes. "Lights and noise," Marcus replied, which wasn't entirely a lie. "I was about to call security when the alarm started." Peterson studied him suspiciously, but lowered his weapon. "Did you touch anything? Activate anything?" "I don't even know what any of this stuff does," Marcus said, gesturing helplessly at the complex equipment surrounding them. "I just empty trash cans and mop floors." More personnel flooded into the room. Scientists in hastily thrown-on clothes, military officers Marcus had never seen before, and men in black suits who looked like they'd stepped out of a spy movie. Dr. Mitchell arrived last, her hair disheveled, and her face pale with worry. "The resonance cascade was completely unexpected," she was saying to one of the military officers. "The quantum field alignment shouldn't have been possible with our current power output. Something external must have interfaced with our system." Marcus continued cleaning, trying to become invisible as the room filled with important people discussing things he wasn't supposed to understand. But he listened carefully, picking up fragments of conversation that painted a disturbing picture. "Dimensional breach confirmed," said one of the men in black suits. "Energy signature matches theoretical models for transdimensional contact. We need to know what came through," replied a military officer with more stars on his collar than Marcus could count. "If this was first contact, it's now classified at the highest levels." Dr. Mitchell looked around the room, her eyes briefly meeting Marcus's. The portal was only stable for approximately 4 minutes. Visual confirmation of the far side suggests an inhabited world, but we have no data on what might have been transmitted between dimensions. "What about witnesses?" asked the general. Peterson stepped forward. "Just the janitor. He says he saw lights and heard noise, nothing more." The general fixed his gaze on Marcus, who tried to look as confused and unimportant as possible. After a long moment, the officer nodded to one of the men in black suits. "Standard witness protocol," the general said. "Expedited processing." Marcus didn't like the sound of that. As if reading his thoughts, Dr. Mitchell spoke up. "General Morrison, Mr. Chun has been our night custodian for months. He has security clearance and has never shown any interest in our research beyond doing his job efficiently." "Nevertheless," the general replied, "he was present during a potential first contact event. Protocol is protocol." The man in the black suit approached Marcus with a tablet and a pen. "Mr. Chun, I need you to sign this non-disclosure agreement. You will not discuss anything you saw here tonight with anyone, including family members, friends, or other employees. Violation of this agreement is a federal crime with severe penalties." Marcus looked at the tablet. The document was filled with legal language he couldn't understand, but the message was clear: keep quiet or go to prison. He thought about Emma, sleeping safely at home under the care of Mrs. Rodriguez from next door. Whatever this was, it was bigger than him. He signed the document. Good, said the general. Now, Mr. Chun, I want you to continue your normal duties. You saw nothing unusual tonight except the equipment malfunction that security handled promptly. Is that clear? Yes, sir, Marcus replied. As the room gradually emptied, Marcus returned to his cleaning routine. But his mind was racing. The small object the alien had passed through the portal was still under the workbench, unnoticed by the investigators. Whatever it was, the being had taken a risk to get it to him specifically. When the last of the officials had left, and the lab was sealed with new security tape, Marcus waited. He cleaned the rest of the floor methodically, listening for any sign of ongoing surveillance. The building settled into its normal nighttime quiet. At 3 a.m., during the security patrol gap, Marcus returned to Lab 317. The room was locked and sealed, but his keycard still worked. He slipped inside and quickly located the object under Dr. Mitchell's workbench. It was about the size of a smartphone, but made of the same silvery material as the alien's skin. The surface was smooth and featureless except for a small depression that seemed shaped for a human finger. Marcus hesitated for only a moment before pressing his thumb to the depression. The device came to life instantly, projecting a three-dimensional hologram into the air above it. The image was crystal clear, the same alien being Marcus had seen, but now it was speaking. The words were in an unknown language, but somehow Marcus understood them perfectly. Human designated Marcus Chun, the alien said, its voice resonating directly in Marcus's mind rather than his ears. I am Zathara of the Kethmiran Council. Your world is in danger, and you are the only one who can help us save it. The hologram flickered, and the alien's expression became urgent. My people have been monitoring your dimension for cycles, watching the development of your species. We have seen the same pattern before. A young civilization discovers dimensional manipulation, makes contact with hostile entities from the void realm, and is consumed by darkness. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the building's air conditioning. What are you talking about? Your scientists call it quantum field resonance, Zathara continued. But they do not understand what they have created. The energy signature of their experiments has attracted the attention of the Devourers. Even now, they gather in the spaces between dimensions, preparing to feed on your world's life force. The hologram shifted, showing Marcus images that made his stomach turn. Vast, shapeless entities of living shadow moved through a realm of absolute darkness. Where they passed, stars went out, and planets became lifeless husks. Why are you telling me this? Marcus asked. I'm nobody important. I clean floors for a living. Because you are the one who was there, Zathara replied. The quantum resonance created a brief empathic link between us. I can sense your thoughts, your heart. You are not a warrior or a scientist, but you possess something more valuable, the determination to protect those you love. Marcus thought of Emma, probably stirring in her sleep about now, getting ready for another day of school. The idea that some cosmic horror might threaten her future made his hands clench into fists. What do you want me to do? He asked. Learn, Zathara said. The device you hold contains our complete database on the Devourers and the methods to stop them. But the knowledge can only be absorbed by a mind that approaches it with pure intent. Your officials would use this information to create weapons, to gain power. You will use it to save lives. The hologram began to fade. Time is short, Marcus Chun. The next time your scientists activate their portal, the Devourers will be ready. You must be ready as well. The device went dark, leaving Marcus alone in the silent lab with the weight of an impossible responsibility. He looked around the room full of equipment he didn't understand, thinking about threats beyond human comprehension and a daughter who needed him to be more than just a janitor. Marcus barely slept that morning. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the images Zathara had shown him. Worlds consumed by darkness, civilizations snuffed out like candle flames. When Emma's alarm clock went off at 7, he was already in the kitchen making her favorite breakfast of scrambled eggs and toast cut into triangles. You look tired, Dad. Emma said as she bounced into the kitchen, her backpack already slung over her shoulder. At 8 years old, she had inherited her mother's ability to notice everything, especially when it came to Marcus's emotional state. "Just a long night at work," Marcus replied, forcing a smile. "Nothing for you to worry about." Emma studied him with the serious expression she got when she was trying to figure out if adults were telling her the truth. "Was it scary? Sometimes when I have bad dreams, I imagine you protecting the whole building from monsters." Marcus nearly dropped the spatula. "What made you think about monsters?" "I don't know." Emma shrugged, digging into her eggs. "Just a feeling. But I know you're brave enough to fight them if you had to." If only she knew how accurate her imagination had become. Marcus kissed the top of her head and sent her off to school with Mrs. Rodriguez, who walked Emma to the bus stop every morning in exchange for Marcus helping with her elderly mother's grocery shopping. Alone in the apartment, Marcus pulled out the alien device. In daylight, it looked less mysterious and more like some kind of advanced tablet computer. He pressed the activation spot again, but nothing happened. Either the device was drained, or it only worked at certain times. He spent the day researching everything he could find about dimensional physics and quantum field theory. Most of it went over his head, but he began to understand the basics. Dr. Mitchell's portal wasn't just a doorway between worlds. It was a tear in the fabric of reality itself. And, according to Zathura, humanity had accidentally rang a dinner bell for cosmic predators. That evening, Marcus arrived at work an hour early. The Meridian Research Institute buzzed with activity despite the late hour. Military vehicles filled the parking lot, and men in black suits patrolled the halls. Security had tripled, and new scanners had been installed at every entrance. Peterson nodded to Marcus as he badged in. "Busy night ahead, Chun. The science folks are running some kind of urgent follow-up experiment. Management wants extra cleaning crews on standby." Marcus nodded and collected his supplies, but his real focus was on the voices echoing from the upper floors. Dr. Mitchell was arguing with someone about premature activation and insufficient safety protocols. General Morrison's voice cut through the discussion like a blade. "Doctor, the potential military applications alone justify the risk. If we can establish reliable contact with advanced civilizations, we gain access to technologies that could revolutionize warfare." "General, you're missing the point," Dr. Mitchell replied, frustration clear in her voice. "We don't understand what we're dealing with. The energy readings from last night were unlike anything in our theoretical models. We could be opening a door to something dangerous." "All the more reason to proceed quickly," said another voice that Marcus didn't recognize. "If hostile forces are aware of our experiments, we need to establish communication before they can act against us." Marcus felt sick. They were going to activate the portal again, probably tonight. He needed to get to the device Zathura had given him, but Lab 317 was crawling with guards and scientists. He would have to wait for the right moment. The hours crawled by as Marcus cleaned the lower floors, listening to the increasingly frantic discussions above. Around midnight, he heard the familiar hum beginning to build in Lab 317. The portal was warming up again. This time, Marcus was ready. He had studied the building's security patterns and identified a maintenance shaft that connected to the lab's ventilation system. It was a tight squeeze, but years of manual labor had kept him in reasonable shape. He made his way to the third floor using the freight elevator, then slipped into a supply closet adjacent to Lab 317. Through the thin walls, he could hear the controlled chaos of the experiment in progress. "Quantum field resonance at 30% and climbing," announced a technician. "Visual contact established," called Dr. Mitchell. "The portal is stable on both sides." Marcus carefully removed a ventilation grate and squeezed into the narrow shaft. It was uncomfortable and claustrophobic, but it gave him a view directly into the lab. What he saw made his blood freeze. The portal was active again, showing the same purple landscape under twin suns. But this time, Zathura wasn't alone on the other side. Dozens of the silver-skinned aliens stood in formation, their faces grim with worry. They were all gesturing urgently at something behind the human observers. In the lab, General Morrison stood before a bank of monitors with several other military officers. "Excellent. Can we establish audio communication?" "Working on it," Dr. Mitchell replied, her fingers flying over a control panel. The quantum field is carrying some kind of harmonic frequency that might translate to. She never finished the sentence. Every monitor in the room suddenly went black. The comforting hum of the portal changed to a discordant wail that made everyone cover their ears. Red warning lights flooded the lab as alarms began shrieking. What's happening? General Morrison shouted over the noise. Unknown energy signature approaching the portal. Dr. Mitchell yelled back. Something massive is moving through the dimensional space between our worlds. Through the portal, Marcus could see the aliens on the other side backing away in terror. Zathara was shouting something, pointing directly at the portal with obvious panic. Then, the purple sky began to darken, as if storm clouds were gathering with impossible speed. But these weren't clouds. As the darkness approached, Marcus could make out shapes within it, vast, writhing forms that seemed to absorb light itself. The Devourers had found them. Shut it down, General Morrison ordered. Shut down the portal now. I'm trying, Dr. Mitchell replied, her voice edged with panic. The field is destabilizing, but something is holding it open from the other side. The darkness reached the edge of the portal, and, suddenly, the lab was filled with a presence that made Marcus's skin crawl. It wasn't visible, but he could feel it pressing against his mind like cold fingers probing for weakness. Several of the technicians collapsed, their faces blank with terror. The alien device in Marcus's pocket suddenly blazed to life, its warm energy driving back the mental intrusion. Zathara's voice spoke directly into his thoughts. Now, Marcus Chun, use the knowledge we have given you. Marcus didn't understand what he was supposed to do, but he pressed his hands against the device. Information flooded his mind, not just facts and figures, but understanding that bypassed his conscious thoughts and went straight to his instincts. He saw the portal's quantum structure, understood its weaknesses, and, most importantly, knew how to close it safely. The problem was that he was stuck in a ventilation shaft, while the people who could actually operate the equipment were paralyzed by fear. Marcus made a decision that went against every survival instinct he possessed. He kicked out the ventilation grate and dropped into the lab. Mr. Chun, General Morrison spun around, his hand moving toward his sidearm. What the hell are you doing here? I know how to stop this, Marcus said, moving toward the control panels. The knowledge from the alien device felt strange in his head, like remembering something he had learned in a dream. You need to reverse the quantum polarity and create a feedback loop in the resonance field. Dr. Mitchell stared at him in amazement. How could you possibly know that? I'll explain later, Marcus replied, his hands already moving over controls he somehow knew how to operate. Right now, we need to close this portal before those things get through. The darkness in the portal was pressing closer, and Marcus could see shapes beginning to solidify within it. The Devourers were almost ready to cross over into his dimension. On the alien side, Zathara and the other beings were making last-ditch efforts to hold back the encroaching shadows. You don't have clearance to touch that equipment, General Morrison growled, but Dr. Mitchell held up a hand to stop him. Let him try, she said. Whatever's coming through that portal, it's not friendly, and our standard protocols aren't working. Marcus's fingers flew over the controls, guided by alien knowledge that felt increasingly natural. He adjusted field harmonics, rerouted power flows, and recalibrated quantum resonators using principles that human science was centuries away from discovering. The portal began to flicker and destabilize. The Devourers sensed what he was doing. The mental pressure intensified, and Marcus felt like his skull was being crushed in an invisible vice. But the alien device in his pocket pulsed with protective energy, and he pressed on. The feedback loop is building, Dr. Mitchell announced, her voice filled with amazement. The quantum field is collapsing in on itself. How did you know to cross-connect the harmonic stabilizers? Lucky guess, Marcus grunted, sweat pouring down his face as he fought against the alien mental intrusion. Is it working? On the other side of the portal, Zathara raised both hands in what looked like a salute or blessing. The other aliens began retreating to a safe distance as the darkness was pulled back by the collapsing portal. Just before the connection severed, Marcus heard Zathara's voice one last time. Well done, Guardian. But this is only the beginning. The portal snapped shut with a sound like reality tearing. The lab plunged into sudden silence. broken only by the groans of technicians recovering from their mental ordeal. Emergency lighting flickered on, revealing equipment smoking from overload, and monitors displaying error messages. Status report. General Morrison barked, helping one of his officers to his feet. Portal closed, Dr. Mitchell announced. All systems show green. The dimensional breach has been sealed. She turned to Marcus with an expression of wonder and suspicion. Mr. Chun, what you just did should have been impossible. The quantum mechanics involved require years of study to understand. I watch a lot of science documentaries, Marcus replied weakly. The knowledge the aliens had given him was already fading, like trying to remember the details of a complex dream. But some of it remained, enough to understand that this victory was temporary. General Morrison stepped closer to Marcus, his eyes hard. Mr. Chun, you're going to tell me exactly how you knew what to do. And you're going to tell me everything you really saw during the first portal activation. Marcus looked around the room at the faces staring at him, scientists, military officers, government agents. None of them would believe the truth, and even if they did, they would use it for all the wrong reasons. Zathara had been clear about that. I got lucky, Marcus said finally. I've been cleaning this lab for months, listening to Dr. Mitchell work. I picked up more than I realized. It wasn't a good lie, but it was all he had. Dr. Mitchell looked skeptical, but she didn't contradict him. Perhaps she understood that some secrets were too dangerous to share. 3 weeks after the portal incident, Marcus Chun had become the most watched janitor in human history. He couldn't leave his apartment without noticing the black SUVs parked across the street. His phone was obviously tapped, and he was pretty sure his mail was being read before it reached him. The government wanted to know how a high school dropout had solved quantum mechanics equations that PhD physicists couldn't crack. The answer, of course, was sitting in his bedroom closet inside an old shoebox. The alien device had become Marcus's secret teacher, downloading centuries of advanced physics directly into his brain whenever he touched it. The knowledge faded quickly, but each session left residual understanding that accumulated over time. He was learning to think like the aliens who had created the device. More importantly, he was learning about the growing threat to Earth. Every night, Marcus studied the data streams showing dimensional weak points around the globe. The Meridian facility had been just the beginning. Research teams in Russia, China, Japan, and several European nations were all working on similar portal technologies. Most were still years away from success, but a few were getting dangerously close to breakthrough. The problem was that Marcus couldn't warn anyone without revealing how he knew. The non-disclosure agreements he'd signed carried severe penalties, and his government handlers made it clear that any attempt to share classified information would result in his immediate arrest. They'd made similar threats about Emma's safety, though those were delivered with bureaucratic politeness. Marcus was trapped between his knowledge and his powerlessness, watching humanity stumble toward catastrophe one experiment at a time. Until Dr. Sarah Mitchell changed everything. She approached him during his shift on a Thursday night, appearing in the break room where Marcus was eating a sandwich and reviewing maintenance schedules. Lab 317 had been sealed since the incident, but Dr. Mitchell had been reassigned to a new project on the 5th floor. Mr. Chun, she said quietly, glancing around to make sure they were alone. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Marcus looked up from his sandwich, trying to read her expression. Dr. Mitchell had always been kind to him, but tonight she seemed nervous, almost frightened. What's on your mind, Dr. Mitchell? She sat down across from him, her voice barely above a whisper. The things you did in Lab 317, the way you manipulated the quantum field resonators. I've been thinking about it for weeks. There's no way you could have known those procedures from overhearing my work. Marcus chewed slowly, buying time. Like I told the general, I watch a lot of documentaries. Marcus. She leaned forward, using his first name for the first time. I have 3 degrees in theoretical physics. I've spent 15 years studying dimensional mechanics. What you accomplished in that lab was graduate-level quantum engineering performed at a speed that suggests deep, intuitive understanding of principles we're only beginning to discover. She paused, studying his face carefully. I think someone taught you. Someone who understands these technologies far better than we do. Marcus felt a chill. If Dr. Mitchell had figured it out, how long before military intelligence reached the same conclusion? I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do. Dr. Mitchell pulled out a tablet and showed him a series of equations. These are the calculations for the portal shutdown sequence you performed. I've been analyzing them, trying to understand the mathematical framework. Marcus, these formulas are at least 50 years ahead of current human knowledge. Maybe more. Marcus looked at the equations and recognized them instantly. The alien device had taught him this mathematics, along with much more. But seeing it written out in human notation made him realize how impossible his story must seem. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. Dr. Mitchell's expression became urgent. "Because I think we're in danger, and I think you might be the only one who knows how to protect us." She swiped to a new screen showing global energy readings. These are dimensional resonance signatures from the last 3 weeks. Every time we've attempted to reactivate portal technology, the readings have gotten stronger. Marcus studied the data, his alien-enhanced understanding allowing him to see patterns that would be invisible to human scientists. The readings weren't just getting stronger, they were getting more focused. The Devourers were learning to track the portal signatures. "Something is responding to our experiments," Dr. Mitchell continued. "Something that wants us to keep opening portals. The Joint Chiefs think it's an invitation for peaceful contact, but I'm not so sure. The energy signatures feel predatory." She was more perceptive than Marcus had realized. The alien knowledge in his head confirmed her suspicions. Every portal activation was indeed drawing the Devourers closer to Earth's dimensional coordinates. "What do you want me to do about it?" Marcus asked. "Help me understand what we're really dealing with," she replied. "I know you have answers, Marcus. I don't care where you got them or how. I just know that my government is about to make contact with something that might destroy us all." Marcus made a decision that would alter the course of both their lives. "Can you get us somewhere private? Somewhere without surveillance?" Dr. Mitchell nodded. "I have a cabin about an hour north of the city. It's off the grid, no cell towers, no internet. Just my late husband's old ham radio equipment." "Tomorrow is Friday," Marcus said. "I'll call in sick. Can you arrange to have Saturday free?" "Yes, but Marcus." She hesitated. "If you're about to show me something classified, I need to know the risks." Marcus thought about Emma, about the Devourers, about the weight of secrets that could save or damn humanity. Dr. Mitchell, what I'm about to share with you will change everything you think you know about physics, about life in the universe, and about the choices our species is about to make. Once you know, you can't unknow it. She didn't hesitate. "I'm ready." The next evening, Marcus followed Dr. Mitchell's GPS directions to a secluded cabin nestled among pine trees beside a small lake. The isolation was perfect for his purposes, but it also made him nervous. If this was a trap, if Dr. Mitchell was working with the government to extract information from him, he would be completely vulnerable. But as they sat in the cabin's rustic living room, sharing coffee and watching the sun set over the water, Marcus's instincts told him he could trust her. Dr. Mitchell had the same quality he'd seen in Zathara, a genuine concern for others that transcended personal ambition. "Before I show you anything," Marcus said, "I need you to understand the stakes. The information I'm about to share comes from a source that could get us both killed if certain people find out. Are you sure you want to know?" Dr. Mitchell set down her coffee cup with steady hands. "Marcus, I've spent my entire career trying to push the boundaries of human knowledge. If that knowledge can help protect our species, then, yes, I want to know." Marcus retrieved the alien device from his jacket pocket. In the cabin's warm light, it looked less mysterious than it did in the sterile lab environment. But Dr. Mitchell's eyes widened as soon as she saw it. "That's not human technology," she breathed. "No," Marcus agreed. "It's not." He pressed the activation point, and the device projected Zathara's image into the space above the coffee table. Dr. Mitchell's coffee cup slipped from her nerveless fingers, but she caught it before it could fall. Her scientific mind processed what she was seeing even as her worldview crumbled and reformed. "This is a recording from Zathara of the Kethmiran Council," Marcus said. "She's the being I made contact with during the first portal activation. Everything I'm about to show you comes from her people." For the next 3 hours, Marcus shared everything. He showed Dr. Mitchell the alien databases, the information about the Devourers, the locations of other dimensional research projects, and the terrible truth about what humanity's experiments were attracting. The scientist in her asked probing questions while the human in her struggled to accept the magnitude of the threat. These devourers, she said finally, studying the holographic images of the shadow entities. They're not just predators. They're an extinction event. According to Zathara, they've consumed 17 civilizations in this galactic region alone, Marcus confirmed. Each time, the pattern is the same. A species discovers dimensional manipulation, the experiments attract the devourer's attention, and the world is consumed. Dr. Mitchell was quiet for a long time, processing the implications. Finally, she looked up at Marcus with a mixture of admiration and horror. You've been carrying this knowledge alone for 3 weeks? I didn't have a choice, Marcus replied. Who was I going to tell? The same people who want to weaponize the portal technology? The military leaders who see dimensional contact as an opportunity for conquest. But you chose to tell me, she pointed out. Why? Marcus smiled grimly. Because you're the only scientist I know who cares more about protecting people than advancing her career. And because I can't stop this alone. The devourers are coming whether we're ready or not. But they're the right people, experts in dimensional physics who have both the knowledge to understand what you're showing me and the integrity to act on it responsibly. Marcus felt a spark of hope for the first time in weeks. What do you have in mind? We warn them, Dr. Mitchell said simply. We share the alien data with scientists who can verify its accuracy and develop countermeasures. We create a shadow network of researchers working to protect Earth instead of exploit it. The governments won't like that, Marcus pointed out. Then, we don't tell the governments, she replied. At least not until we have solutions to offer along with the problems. They spent the rest of the night planning. Dr. Mitchell would reach out to her contacts through encrypted channels, sharing carefully edited versions of the alien intelligence. Marcus would continue his covert surveillance of the Meridian facility, watching for signs of new portal experiments. Together, they would begin building humanity's secret defense against a threat that most people couldn't even imagine. As dawn broke over the lake, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced since becoming a single father: partnership. For years, he'd carried every burden alone, from paying bills to raising Emma to protecting the world from cosmic horrors. Now he had an ally, someone who understood both the science and the stakes. There's one more thing, Marcus said as they prepared to leave. Zathara mentioned that her people have been watching humanity for a long time. They've seen other species go through this crisis, and most of them fail. But some survive. What makes the difference? Dr. Mitchell asked. Marcus thought about Emma, about all the children around the world who deserved a future, about the human capacity for both destruction and protection. According to Zathara, the species that survive are the ones who learn to value wisdom over power, who choose cooperation over conquest, who understand that some doors shouldn't be opened until you're ready to face what's on the other side. Dr. Mitchell smiled grimly. Then, we'd better start teaching those less ODR. Mitchell's network proved to be more extensive than Marcus had imagined. Within 2 weeks of their cabinet meeting, encrypted data packets began flowing between research facilities across 6 continents. Scientists who had been isolated by government secrecy classifications suddenly found themselves part of a shadow community dedicated to understanding and preventing humanity's potential extinction. The response was everything Marcus had hoped for and more than he had dared expect. Dr. Kenji Nakamura in Tokyo confirmed the mathematical models through independent quantum calculations. Professor Elena Volkov in Moscow identified similar energy signatures in her government's classified research. Dr. James Wright in London had actually detected trace dimensional distortions weeks before his facility's first portal test, but his warnings had been ignored by military oversight. Each scientist brought pieces of a larger puzzle. Together, they began to see the true scope of the threat facing Earth. The global picture is terrifying, Dr. Mitchell told Marcus during one of their regular meetings in the abandoned subway tunnel they'd chosen as their secure communication hub. 17 active portal projects, 12 more in late development stages. If they all come online according to their current schedules, we'll have 29 dimensional breach points active simultaneously within the next 6 months. Marcus studied the holographic map projected by the alien device, each red dot representing a potential gateway for the devourers. What does Zathara's data say about that scenario? The alien knowledge flowed through his enhanced understanding. And the answer made his blood run cold. Portal density creates resonance amplification, he said slowly. With that many breach points active, the dimensional barriers weaken exponentially. The Devourers won't need to force their way through individual portals. They'll be able to tear reality itself and pour through like water through a broken dam. Dr. Mitchell's face went pale in the tunnel's dim lighting. How long do we have? The cascade effect begins when portal density reaches critical mass, Marcus replied, accessing deeper levels of the alien database. Based on current development timelines, maybe 4 months before the first reality tiers begin appearing. 6 months before global dimensional collapse becomes irreversible. They sat in silence for a moment, both contemplating the impossibility of their task. How could two people, even with alien knowledge and a network of brilliant scientists, convince the world's most powerful governments to abandon projects representing billions of dollars in investment and potential military advantage? We need more than warnings, Dr. Mitchell said finally. We need proof they can't ignore, and we need alternatives they can accept. What kind of alternatives? Marcus asked. Defensive applications of portal technology, she replied, her scientific mind already working through possibilities. If we can't stop them from opening dimensional doors, maybe we can teach them how to lock those doors from our side. Over the following weeks, their secret network evolved into something approaching a shadow government research division. Scientists worked in isolation on components of larger projects, sharing data through encrypted channels that bounced signals off amateur radio repeaters and abandoned satellite links. They developed new mathematical frameworks for dimensional stability, designed containment protocols for hostile entities, and, most importantly, created weapons specifically designed to fight beings that existed partially outside normal space-time. Marcus found himself at the center of it all, not because he was the smartest or most qualified, but because he was the only one with direct access to alien knowledge. The device in his pocket had become humanity's most valuable resource, and every night he downloaded more information than human scientists could absorb in years of study. The strain was beginning to show. Marcus's supervisor at the Meridian facility had commented on his pale complexion and frequent requests for schedule changes. Emma noticed that her father seemed distracted during their evening homework sessions, though she attributed it to work stress. Mrs. Rodriguez expressed concern about the dark circles under his eyes and his habit of checking their apartment's security locks multiple times each night. Marcus knew he was pushing himself beyond safe limits, but the alien data kept revealing new urgencies. Portal experiments in Brazil had detected responsive entities on the far side of their dimensional breach. A Chinese facility reported equipment malfunctions that showed clear signs of external manipulation. Most ominously, the Russian project had experienced a 12-second portal opening that resulted in the complete mental breakdown of 3 researchers who claimed they had seen hungry darkness pressing against the dimensional barrier. The Devourers were getting closer. We're running out of time for subtle approaches, Marcus told Dr. Mitchell during what he sensed might be their last planning meeting in the tunnel. The alien data shows dimensional resonance building toward cascade threshold. We need to force the issue. What do you have in mind? She asked, though her expression suggested she already suspected his answer. Direct intervention, Marcus replied. We go public with everything. Release the alien data simultaneously through every major media outlet, scientific journal, and government contact our network has established. Create enough pressure that the portal projects have to be suspended while the evidence is evaluated. Dr. Mitchell shook her head. Marcus, that's a suicide mission for everyone involved. The moment we release classified information, we become enemies of every government with portal technology. They'll arrest us, discredit us, maybe worse. And if we don't, Marcus countered, they'll accidentally end human civilization within 6 months. The weight of that truth settled between them like a physical presence. Both of them had families, careers, lives they would be sacrificing. But both of them also understood that those lives would be meaningless if humanity didn't survive the next year. There's another option, Dr. Mitchell said quietly. One that doesn't require us to become fugitives. She activated her tablet and showed Marcus a schematic he'd never seen before. It was elegant and complex, clearly based on alien technology, but adapted for human manufacturing capabilities. A dimensional shield generator, she explained. Dr. Nakamura, and I have been working on it using the mathematical frameworks from your alien device. If we can build a working prototype, we can demonstrate the threat and the solution simultaneously. Marcus studied the design, his enhanced understanding revealing both its potential and its limitations. This would protect maybe a city block from dimensional intrusion, he said. We'd need thousands of them to shield the entire planet. But it would prove the technology works, Dr. Mitchell replied. Give world leaders something concrete to implement, instead of just asking them to abandon their portal projects based on alien warnings they can't verify. It was a compelling argument, but Marcus could sense time running out with each passing day. The alien device had begun showing him images of dimensional weak points forming in Earth's reality, invisible to human instruments but growing stronger as portal experiments continued worldwide. That night, as Marcus tucked Emma into bed, she surprised him with a question that cut straight to the heart of his dilemma. Dad, are you going to have to go away? Marcus sat on the edge of her bed, studying his daughter's serious expression. What makes you ask that, sweetheart? You've been sad lately, she said. And sometimes when grown-ups are sad for a long time, it means they have to make hard choices. I heard Mrs. Rodriguez telling her friend that you look like a man carrying the world on his shoulders. Out of the mouths of babes, Marcus felt tears threatening at the corners of his eyes. Would you be very scared if Dad had to travel for work? If I had to go somewhere important to help people? Emma considered this with the gravity that only 8-year-olds could bring to life-changing questions. Would it help save people? Like the way superheroes have to leave sometimes to fight the really big monsters. Something like that, Marcus said softly. Then, I think you should go, she replied. But you have to promise to come back. And you have to promise that while you're gone, you'll remember that I love you and I'm proud of you for being brave. Marcus hugged his daughter tighter than he had since the day she was born, knowing that tomorrow he would have to make the hardest decision of his life. The next morning brought news that made the decision for him. Dr. Mitchell called with barely controlled panic in her voice. Marcus, you need to see this. The Brazilian facility just reported a partial breach. Something came through their portal for approximately 30 seconds before they managed to close it. Marcus met her at the tunnel an hour later, where she showed him classified footage that had been leaked by a Brazilian scientist in their network. The video was grainy and lasted only 43 seconds, but it was enough to confirm Marcus's worst fears. A shadow had emerged from the Brazilian portal, not solid, but not entirely immaterial either. It moved with predatory intelligence, testing the boundaries of the portal chamber before being pulled back by the portal's collapse. But in those 30 seconds, the shadow had learned the layout of human technology, the vulnerability of human minds, and, most importantly, the exact dimensional coordinates of Earth. It was a scout, Marcus said, the alien knowledge providing context that human science couldn't offer. The Devourers sent a probe to gather intelligence about our defenses and our location. Now they know exactly where we are and how to find us again. How long before they return? Dr. Mitchell asked. Marcus consulted the alien database, his enhanced consciousness calculating variables that would take human computers days to process. Based on dimensional travel mechanics and devourer behavioral patterns, 2 weeks, maybe 3. When they come back, it won't be a scout. It will be an invasion force. Dr. Mitchell stared at him in horror. Then, we have to warn everyone now. Release everything. Consequences be damned. No, Marcus said, feeling a strange calm settle over him as his path became clear. We stick with the shield generator plan, but we accelerate the timeline. How quickly can your network build a working prototype? With the right resources and no bureaucratic delays? Maybe 10 days. The dimensional disruptor took shape in an abandoned warehouse outside Detroit, assembled by a team of scientists who had officially died in laboratory accidents. Dr. Mitchell had proven remarkably skilled at faking deaths and creating new identities for researchers who needed to vanish from government oversight. Their network now operated as a ghost organization, funded by cryptocurrency donations from tech billionaires who understood existential threats and equipped with salvaged equipment from a dozen different countries. Marcus stood before the device on the morning of its first test, feeling the weight of humanity's future pressing down on his shoulders. The disruptor looked nothing like the elegant alien technology he'd seen in Zathara's databases. It was crude, cobbled together from human materials, and driven by theories that stretched current physics beyond its breaking point. But, according to the alien knowledge in his enhanced consciousness, it should work. Dimensional resonance at optimal frequency, announced Dr. Nakamura, who had smuggled himself out of Japan in a shipping container to join their efforts. Target portal is the abandoned Brazilian facility. If we're successful, we should be able to sever any dimensional connections at that location permanently. Dr. Mitchell checked the readings on her instruments, then looked at Marcus with concern. Are you sure about this? Once we activate the disruptor, every government on Earth is going to know that someone has weapons-grade dimensional technology. There's no going back to our old lives. Marcus thought about Emma, safe in Mrs. Rodriguez's care under a new identity Dr. Mitchell had arranged. His daughter believed her father was on a business trip that might last several weeks. It was the kindest lie he could manage. The Devourers are already mobilizing, Marcus replied, his alien-enhanced senses detecting dimensional disturbances that human instruments couldn't measure. I can feel them testing reality barriers, looking for weak points. We're not starting a war. We're finally acknowledging that one has already begun. The activation sequence required Marcus to interface directly with the alien device while manipulating controls that had been designed around his unique knowledge. As his consciousness merged with the disruptor's targeting system, he could see the dimensional landscape as the aliens saw it. Layers of reality stacked like sheets of paper, with portals burning like holes punched by cigarettes. The Brazilian facility appeared in his enhanced vision as a festering wound in space-time, its edges still raw from the Devourer Scout's intrusion. Dark tendrils of alien energy clung to the portal site like an infection, broadcasting Earth's coordinates into dimensions where hungry shadows waited. Target acquired, Marcus announced. Beginning dimensional severance in 3, 2, 1. The disruptor fired a beam of concentrated unreality, a weapon that didn't exist in any human physics textbook. The effect was immediate and devastating. Through his enhanced consciousness, Marcus watched the portal site collapse like a star going supernova in reverse. The dark tendrils of alien energy were severed, cauterized, and sealed behind barriers of crystallized space-time. Severance complete, Dr. Nakamura reported, his voice filled with amazement. Dimensional resonance at the target site has dropped to 0. Whatever portal technology was there, it's been permanently disabled. Marcus disconnected from the disruptor's targeting system, feeling the alien knowledge recede to manageable levels. One down, he said grimly. 16 more active sites to go. Their celebration was interrupted by alarms from Dr. Volkov's monitoring station. The Russian physicist had been tracking dimensional disturbances globally, watching for signs of devourer activity. What she found made the room fall silent. They felt that, she announced, her face pale with fear. The moment we severed the Brazilian portal, dimensional activity spiked at every other portal site on Earth. The Devourers know we can fight back now. Marcus accessed the alien database, consulting Zathara's records of similar conflicts on other worlds. The knowledge that flowed through his consciousness was not encouraging. Aggressive resistance triggers immediate invasion response, he said, translating alien strategic doctrine into human terms. The Devourers will abandon their gradual infiltration plan and attempt a direct assault through multiple portals simultaneously. How long do we have? Dr. Mitchell asked. Marcus felt the dimensions trembling around Earth like a drumhead struck by invisible hammers. Hours, maybe less. They're already beginning the approach sequence. The warehouse erupted into controlled chaos as their team prepared for humanity's first deliberate battle with cosmic predators. The disruptor was quickly reconfigured for defensive operations while scientists armed themselves with experimental weapons that might or might not work against beings that existed partially outside normal reality. Marcus found himself thinking about the conversation with Emma the night before he'd left home. She had asked him to remember that she loved him and was proud of his bravery. Those words had sustained him through weeks of preparation, and now they would have to carry him through whatever came next. Dimensional breach detected. Dr. Nakamura called out. Multiple sites activating simultaneously. Portal openings confirmed in Russia, China, Germany, and, oh God, there's one in downtown Los Angeles. Through the warehouse's windows, Marcus could see the sky beginning to darken despite the afternoon hour. The Devourers weren't just coming through the portal sites. Their presence in this dimension was affecting reality itself. Streetlights flickered on as an unnatural twilight settled over the world. "This is it," Marcus announced to the team. "Everyone knows their assignments. Remember, we're not trying to win this war today. We're trying to survive it long enough to teach humanity how to fight." The dimensional disruptor was now linked to a network of smaller devices that Dr. Mitchell's team had managed to place near several portal sites. It wasn't enough to seal all the breaches, but it might buy them time to organize a broader defense. Marcus took his position at the control center, the alien device warm against his palm as he prepared to interface with technology that shouldn't exist. Around him, the world's most brilliant scientists prepared to fight monsters from beyond the stars, using weapons cobbled together from spare parts and desperate hope. The first portal tore open above Moscow, and shadows began pouring through like oil spilled from a broken tanker truck. The Devourers had arrived in force, and they were hungry for a world that had dared to resist them. Targeting Moscow portal, Marcus announced, his consciousness expanding to encompass the disruptor's targeting array. Through his enhanced vision, he could see the alien entities as they truly were, vast intelligences of pure entropy, beings that fed on the collapse of ordered reality and grew stronger with each civilization they consumed. But, as he prepared to fire, something unexpected happened. The alien device in his hand began projecting not tactical data, but a communication signal. Zathara's image appeared in the warehouse, larger and more detailed than Marcus had ever seen it. "Guardian Marcus," the alien said, her voice resonating with urgency. "The time for hidden resistance has ended. My people have been monitoring your progress, and we are impressed by your species' adaptability. We are prepared to offer direct assistance, but the choice must be yours." Marcus felt the attention of every scientist in the warehouse focused on him. Through the skylights, he could see more shadows gathering in the darkening sky. In the distance, sirens wailed as emergency services responded to reports of impossible phenomena. "What kind of assistance?" Marcus asked. "Full technological integration," Zathara replied. "We will share our complete database of anti-devourer weapons and defenses with your global scientific community. Your species will leap forward by centuries in a matter of days. But there will be consequences. Humanity will never again be alone in the universe, and your civilization will be fundamentally changed by knowledge it is not yet mature enough to handle responsibly." Marcus thought about Emma, about all the children around the world who deserved a chance to grow up, even if it was in a universe more complex and dangerous than their parents had imagined. "And if we refuse the assistance?" he asked. "Then you face the Devourers with only the resources you have now," Zathara replied honestly. "Some of you might survive. Enough to rebuild, perhaps. But billions will die, and your technological development will be set back by centuries." The choice was impossible and inevitable. Marcus looked around the warehouse at the faces of scientists who had sacrificed everything to give humanity a fighting chance. Then, he looked up at the darkening sky where shadows moved with predatory intent. "We accept your assistance," Marcus said. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The alien device in his hand blazed with light, and suddenly, every computer, tablet, and smartphone in the warehouse began downloading terabytes of data. Not just weapon specifications, but mathematics, physics, engineering principles, and technologies that would reshape human civilization. Dr. Mitchell stared at her tablet in amazement as blueprints for faster-than-light travel scrolled across her screen. Dr. Nakamura was already adapting alien power generation systems to boost their disruptors' output by several orders of magnitude. Around the world, every scientist who had been part of their network received the same gift of knowledge. But the Devourers weren't waiting for humanity to upgrade its defenses. More portals tore open across the globe, and the shadows that poured through them began affecting reality on a planetary scale. Gravity fluctuated randomly in some areas, time flowed backward in others, and in several major cities, The laws of physics simply stopped working according to human expectations. Enhanced Targeting System Online, DR. Nakamura announced, his voice tight with concentration as he absorbed alien engineering principles in real time. Dimensional Disruptor, now capable of simultaneous multi-target engagement. Marcus interfaced with the upgraded system, his consciousness suddenly expanded to encompass a global battlefield. Through sensors he hadn't known existed, he could perceive every portal opening, every devourer intrusion, every point where reality was being torn and devoured. It was too much for any human mind to process, but the alien device was changing him, upgrading his consciousness to handle information flows that would have driven him insane weeks earlier. He was becoming something more than human, a hybrid intelligence capable of fighting beings that existed partially outside normal spacetime. Beginning global counterstrike, Marcus announced, his voice now carrying harmonic frequencies that resonated with alien technology. All portal sites targeted simultaneously. The Dimensional Disruptor fired not one beam, but dozens, each one precisely calibrated to sever a different portal connection. Across the globe, shadows shrieked as their invasion routes were cut off. Several devourers were caught halfway between dimensions, their forms shredded by the collapse of the portals they were using to enter Earth's reality. But the victory was temporary. Even as existing portals collapsed, new ones began forming. The devourers were adapting, using the brief contact with Earth's dimension to map new entry points that bypassed humanity's defenses. They're learning our countermeasures, Dr. Volkov reported. Dimensional breach attempts increasing exponentially. They're going to overwhelm our defensive capabilities through sheer numbers. Marcus accessed deeper levels of the alien database, searching for strategies that had proven successful against devourer swarm tactics. What he found changed everything about humanity's approach to the war. We've been thinking about this wrong, he announced. We can't win by playing defense. The devourers are entropy incarnate. They grow stronger the more chaos they create. The only way to defeat them is to outcreate their destruction. Dr. Mitchell looked up from her tablet, her eyes bright with understanding. Creation versus entropy. Order versus chaos. We don't just seal portals, we build new realities. The alien knowledge flowed through Marcus's enhanced consciousness, revealing the true nature of the war they were fighting. The devourers weren't just predators seeking to consume civilizations. They were agents of cosmic entropy, seeking to reduce the universe to a state of perfect chaos. Every advanced civilization that survived their assault did so by learning to become agents of creation, builders of new realities that could outpace the destruction. Beginning reality amplification sequence, Marcus announced, his hybrid consciousness now fully integrated with the alien systems. All defensive positions switched to creative mode. The Dimensional Disruptor transformed, its energy output shifting from destructive interference to constructive reinforcement. Instead of collapsing portals, it began stabilizing the dimensional barriers around Earth, thickening the walls between realities, and making them harder for the devourers to penetrate. But, more importantly, it began creating new spaces, pocket dimensions attached to Earth's reality like rooms added to a house. These new realities were uninhabitable by entropy-based entities, providing safe zones where human survivors could gather and rebuild if the worst happened. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The darkening sky began to clear as dimensional stability returned to normal. The gravitational anomalies ceased, time flowed forward at a consistent rate, and the laws of physics reasserted themselves across the planet. The devourers, finding themselves unable to consume a reality that was actively creating new versions of itself faster than they could destroy them, began to retreat. They didn't flee. Entities of pure entropy didn't experience fear, but they recognized a tactical situation that couldn't be won with their current approach. As the last shadows disappeared through collapsing portals, Marcus felt his consciousness gradually returning to human normal levels. The alien device was powering down, its emergency knowledge downloads complete. Around the world, similar devices were going dormant, their one-time gift of advanced technology fully delivered. Status report, Marcus said, his voice once again recognizably human. All dimensional breach attempts have ceased, Dr. Nakamura reported. Reality barriers show green across all monitoring stations. The invasion has been repelled. Dr. Mitchell was studying global communication intercepts, her expression a mixture of relief and concern. Emergency services are reporting that the strange phenomena have ended, but government agencies around the world are demanding explanations. Every major military power is trying to trace the source of the dimensional weapons that were used. Marcus nodded, having expected this development. How long before they find us? Hours, maybe less, she replied. The energy signatures from our equipment are probably visible from orbit by now. But Marcus was no longer worried about government retaliation. The alien knowledge might have faded from conscious access, but it had left him with a deep understanding of the changes that were coming. Humanity had been given the scientific foundation for technologies that would reshape civilization within decades. The portal experiments that had attracted the Devourers would seem primitive compared to what was now possible. More importantly, Earth was no longer alone. Zathara's final transmission had included coordinates for the Kethmiron home system and protocols for establishing formal diplomatic contact. Humanity had passed its first test as a spacefaring species by choosing cooperation over conquest when faced with ultimate power. As military helicopters appeared on the horizon, Marcus prepared for the next phase of his unlikely journey. He was no longer just a janitor who had saved the world. He was humanity's first ambassador to a galactic community that had been waiting centuries for Earth to prove it was ready to join. But first, he had a promise to keep. Emma was waiting for him to come home, and no cosmic responsibility was more important than being the father she needed. The universe was vast and full of wonders, but family was what gave meaning to all the rest. Marcus Chin smiled as he prepared to surrender to the approaching authorities, knowing that his daughter would be proud of what her father had accomplished. The single-dad janitor had become humanity's guardian, and, in doing so, had helped his species take its first steps toward a larger destiny among the stars. The real adventure was just beginning. Then, that's what we do, Marcus decided. But we're not just building a prototype to demonstrate the technology. We're building a weapon. The alien data includes specifications for dimensional disruptors, devices that can sever portal connections, and damage entities that exist partially outside normal spacetime. Dr. Mitchell's eyes widened as she understood the implications. Marcus, you're talking about going to war with cosmic predators using technology we barely understand. I'm talking about buying humanity time to develop proper defenses, he replied. The Devourers are coming whether we're ready or not. We can meet them with panic and improvised responses, or we can meet them with the best weapons and shields we can build in the time we have left. As they began planning humanity's first deliberate preparation for interdimensional warfare, Marcus thought about Emma's words the night before. She had called him brave, but bravery was just another word for doing what needed to be done when everything you cared about was at stake. The janitor who had stumbled into first contact was gone forever. In his place stood something new, humanity's unlikely guardian, armed with alien knowledge and desperate determination to protect a world that didn't even know it needed saving. And as quickly as they drove back toward the city, both of them knew their lives had changed forever. Marcus was no longer fighting alone, and Dr. Mitchell had found a purpose greater than her academic career. Behind them, the alien device pulsed quietly in Marcus's pocket, its knowledge ready to guide humanity's next steps in a war that most people didn't even know had begun. The real battle for Earth's future was about to start, and it would be fought not with weapons, but with wisdom. This incident is classified at the highest level, General Morrison announced. No one speaks about what happened here tonight. Mr. Chun, you'll be debriefed extensively. And Dr. Mitchell, I want a full analysis of exactly what your janitor managed to accomplish. As the room filled with investigators and technicians, Marcus quietly slipped away. His part in the evening's events was far from over, but the immediate crisis had passed. He made his way home through empty streets, the alien device heavy in his pocket. Emma was sleeping peacefully when he checked on her, unaware that her father had just saved the world from cosmic predators. Marcus stood in her doorway for a long time, watching her breathe, trying to process what he had become. He was no longer just a janitor who happened to witness first contact. He was humanity's secret guardian, armed with alien knowledge and the responsibility to protect his world from threats beyond imagination. The Devourers would return. Zathara had made that clear, and next time, humanity would need to be ready. Marcus closed Emma's door and went to his own room, where he sat on the edge of his bed and activated the alien device one more time. This time, instead of a hologram, the device projected streams of data directly into his consciousness. Languages, technologies, battle strategies, and, most importantly, the location of other portals that were beginning to form around the world. The Meridian Research Institute wasn't the only facility experimenting with dimensional physics. Similar projects were underway in 12 other countries, all unknowingly broadcasting humanity's location to predators from beyond the stars. Marcus had work to do. But, first, he needed to figure out how a single father with a high school education was going to convince the world's most powerful governments that they were making a terrible mistake. As he studied the alien data streams, Marcus began to form a plan. It was dangerous, probably impossible, and would require him to become someone he'd never imagined being. Emma stirred in her sleep down the hall, and Marcus smiled grimly. For her sake, for everyone's sake, he would find a way. The janitor was about to become something much more. For the first time in years, Marcus Chun had a purpose beyond simple survival. It terrified him. He slipped the alien device into his pocket and finished his shift in a daze. As dawn broke over the city, he walked home through streets full of people who had no idea their world had just changed forever. Emma would wake up soon, expecting breakfast and help with her homework, living in a universe that was suddenly much larger and more dangerous than either of them had imagined. Marcus paused at the door of their small apartment, key in hand. Everything that came next would depend on the choices he made in the coming days. He was just a single father who cleaned buildings for a living. But, according to an alien from another dimension, that might be exactly what humanity needed. He opened the door and stepped into his old life one last time, knowing that tomorrow night, when he returned to work, everything would be different. The Devourers were coming, and, somehow, Marcus Chun was the only one who could stop them. In his pocket, the alien device pulsed once, as if acknowledging his decision. The real story was just beginning.